I'm almost tempted to ask you, since you can't lie to Congress, when you were compared to Mr. Trump, did you take that as a compliment? No, don't answer. It was a joke. Okay, no.
Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Facebook. This is Mr. Zuckerberg's first appearance before this committee, but I believe that Mr. Zuckerberg needs no introduction.
Thank you, Chairwoman Waters, Ranking Member McHenry, and members of the committee. There are more than 1 billion people around the world who don't have access to a bank account, but could through mobile phones if the right system existed. And that includes more than 14 million people right here in the US. Being shut out of the financial system has real consequences for people's lives, and it's often the most disadvantaged people who pay the highest price. I believe that this problem can be solved, and Libra can help.
I have a few more things to say, but for the richest man in the world to come here and hide behind the poorest people in the world and say that's who you're really trying to help. You're trying to help those for whom the dollar is not a good currency. Drug dealers, terrorists, tax evaders.
Our last hearing on Libra, for example, was a moment when members of Congress on this dais actually compared the technology, that technology of Libra, to the terrorist attacks of September 11th.
Will the gentleman yield?
Look, I have my own
Making
qualms
a
about
reference to
Facebook
nice comment.
and
Will the
Libra.
gentleman yield?
The time belongs to the gentleman from North Carolina.
Thank you for taking the bait.
Still forgot to answer it, but let's be clear. You're going to be making powerful burglary tools and letting your business partners commit the burglary. You are going, with all the power of Facebook, to try to create a new currency. You're going to call it the Libra, but you're the person behind it. That's why I call it the Zuck Buck. You are going to create it and then say, oh, it's our business partners. Your white paper says your business partners are going to use your tool to have anonymous accounts, and then you have the gall to come here and say you're going to follow all the know your customer. How do you know your customer with an anonymous account?
You plan on doing no fact-checking on political ads.
Chairwoman, our policy is that we do not fact-check politicians' speech, and the reason for that is that we believe that in a democracy, it is important that people can see for themselves what politicians are saying.
You announced recently that the official policy of Facebook now allows politicians to pay to spread disinformation.
There's imminent risk of harm.
Could I run ads targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Would I be able to run advertisements on Facebook targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal? I mean, if you're not fact-checking political advertisements, I'm just trying to understand the bounds here. What's fair game?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think
So you don't know if I'll be able to do that.
I think probably.
Do you see a potential problem here with a complete lack of fact-checking on political advertisements?
Well, Congresswoman, I think lying is bad, and I think if you were to run an ad that had a lie, that would be bad.
You won't take down lies, or you will take down lies? I think it's just a pretty simple yes or no.
Have you learned that you should not lie?
Congresswoman, I would disagree with the characterization of that.
Well, you say you went to the European regulators and you said that it will not linked. It will not, that it will be impossible. And yet, 18 months later, it happened. And you were fined for that.
Congresswoman,
let's continue. I hope that you learned something about that, about not lying.
So let me ask you this. Do you know what redlining is?
yes.
Okay, then you should have known better. And maybe if you had real diversity or inclusion on your team, somebody in that room would have said what you were doing when you looked at what you were doing in the housing, how you were redlining or using zip codes and to eliminate people from getting information. I think we should probably phrase it a little differently, that you work with civil rights work is because it's a result of the number of lawsuits that you've had, NAACP. Do you know what percentage of African Americans are on Facebook? in comparison to majority folks? Do you know what the percentages are?
People using the Facebook.
Yes. Do you know what the percentages are for African Americans?
I don't, because we don't collect the races of people.
Well, it came out in a report and in the Pew Research Center that was sent to you. So maybe you just don't read a lot of things that deal with civil rights or African Americans.
Libra, the currency is in the wallet, Calibra.
Yes, Calibra is our.
So it's like me having my money in Wells Fargo Bank.
You could think about it that way.
Okay.
Although we're not a bank, we're not applying for a bank charter. I think that the right analogy.
But that's the problem.
This is a
Mr.
payment
Zuckerberg, that's the problem. That's what we're facing here. And this was the same place where I ran into kind of trying to understand what this thing is that you all are creating. And I appreciate creation. I'd like it to stay in America and not go to Switzerland.
Mr. Zuckerberg, as you know, Facebook can be sometimes an unkind place, both toward my personal appearance and today apparently toward your haircut. But I just, as a mother of a teenage boy, I just want to say thanks for modeling the shortcut. You've got about 15,000 contractors watching murders, stabbings, suicides, other gruesome, disgusting videos for content moderation, correct?
Congressman, yes, I believe that that's correct.
According to one report I have, and this is straight out of an episode of Black Mirror, these workers get 9 minutes of supervised wellness time per day. That means 9 minutes to cry in the stairwell while somebody watches them. Would you be willing to commit to spending 1 hour a day for the next year watching these videos and acting as a content monitor and only accessing the same benefits available to your workers?
Congresswoman, we work hard to make sure that we give good benefits to all the folks who are doing this.
Mr. Zuckerberg, reclaiming my time, I would appreciate a yes or a no. Would you be willing to act as a content monitor, to have that life experience?
I'm not sure that it would best serve our community for me to spend that much
Reclaiming
time.
my time.
This,
Mr.
but
Zuckerberg,
I spend a lot of
reclaiming my
looking at
time.
this content.
Mr. Zuckerberg, are you saying you're not qualified to be a content monitor?
No, Congresswoman, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
My first question is simple but very thought-provoking. How realistic a betrayal was the social network?